Thank you for stopping by. This is We the People, a new birth of freedom. And I certainly encourage you to subscribe and leave your comments below. I'll get back to you. For some weeks now, we've been discussing the Declaration of Independence and the absolute reason that the Declaration of Independence is understood as the foundation, the bedrock of our liberty, is because without independence, which is significant of sovereignty, without that, we fall prey to the hands of human definition of life, liberty, justice, equality, and the pursuit of happiness. That's why the Declaration of Independence was written first. Our founding fathers realized that as long as they were attached and the subjects of or the servants of the political tyranny, the political control of the King of Britain, real life, real liberty, real justice, real equality, and the pursuit of happiness could not be experienced in its full potential. Now, it's one thing to declare independence. That doesn't mean they were declaring no cooperation with other nations. But they understood that true life, true liberty, true justice, equality, and the pursuit of happiness could only be experienced and built upon through the channel of sovereignty, independent sovereignty. Independent sovereignty as a nation and independent sovereignty as a people, we the people. And you've heard me give some examples. No political party determines human birth. That comes by a live sperm and a live egg and the union of those two. And cells begin to multiply, 2, 4, 8, 16, 32, 64, and so on. The process of human development is conceived. That is not determined by a political party. That's not governed by a Supreme Court. That's not decided upon by a dictator, a president, a monarch, a pharaoh. Now, history proves that men in those types of leadership have legislated laws to control birth or to decide on abortion. And there's even times in history where abortion was legislated at the age of 2 years old on down. So abortion is nothing new. History tells us that the Pharaoh of Egypt sent out a decree, a statute, a law, that any child 2 years old and under would be killed. Why? Because the Pharaoh heard that there was a leader born in the land that might rise up against him. We're trying to destroy Moses, according to history. In the times of Jesus, the decree went forth by a political leader of that time. Once again, 2 years old and under would be killed because they had received the report that a Messiah was in the land, was born, had to be destroyed. So there's a reason behind political decisions. It's to manipulate, control, dominate human sovereignty. So our founding fathers were very insightful, visionary, very wise. Some of the most wisest men that had ever walked this planet. And as they researched history and philosophy and religion, they came to grasp reality of what life really was and what it represented and what liberty really was and what it represented, what justice really was and what it represented and what happiness really was and what it represented. So Thomas Jefferson said, when in the course of human events, We understand that human events are limited. You see, these words, if they're just read in simplicity, and that's what they were written for, was the common man. They weren't written for some political party to dissect and define. They weren't written for a Supreme Court to put under their legal microscope and define it. It was written for the common man. When in the course of human events, they understood that human events have such extreme limitations, it becomes necessary for one people to dissolve the political bands which have connected them with another. Political bands have their extreme limitations. The old cliche, absolute power corrupts absolutely. The volumes of history prove that. And it's been said so many times that if we fail to learn from history, we are doomed and destined to repeat it. And we're repeating it right now, right here in the United States of America. We are repeating the chaos and the crisis that have risen up so many times in history. It becomes necessary for one people to dissolve the political bands which have connected them with another and to assume among the powers of the earth. Now they're moving into the realm of absolutes. The powers of the earth, what are they? They're the separate and equal station to which the laws of nature and nature's God entitled them. Now we're talking about something that's absolute, something that's intrinsic, incontrovertible. No political party creates lungs and oxygen that we breathe. No Supreme Court invents a sperm and a cell and unites them together, or an egg, and unites them together and causes them to multiply. That's not determined by a Supreme Court. These things are determined by the laws of nature and nature's God. And I know so many politicians want to avoid those two words, nature's God. Because in the postmodern society, well, they call it postmodern society, they call it progressives. There's no such thing as progressives. They're actually regressives. They're just trying to take us back to totalitarianism and tyranny. But they love, or should I say, they hate that those two words, nature's God. Well, let's just see what our founding fathers thought of providence. They used the word providence, which signified that a supreme being, an all-knowing supreme being, was able to orchestrate life, liberty, the pursuit of happiness, and make it accessible to all people, according to the laws of nature that he had created, and not man. George Washington said in the adoption of the Constitution, he said, "It will demonstrate as visibly the finger of providence as any possible event in the course of human affairs can ever designate it." Daniel Webster said, "In regards to the Constitution, I regard it as the work of the purest patriots and wisest statesmen that ever existed." How true. Aided by the smiles of a benignant, that is, a gracious providence, it almost appears a divine interposition in our behalf, and it was. Benjamin Franklin said, "I have so much faith in the general government of the world by providence that I can hardly conceive a transaction," as he was framing the Constitution, "of such momentous importance to the welfare of millions should be suffered to pass without being in some degree influenced, guided, and governed by that omnipotent and beneficent ruler in whom all inferior spirits live and move and have their being." He was quoting straight from the canon of Scripture in the book of Acts, where Luke penned those words. Speaking about God, in him we move and have our being. They were very conscious of a supreme being, a creator, and the laws in nature that he had established. They weren't talking about a religion. Now there's been an ongoing fight and war and debate over the separation of church and state and religion and all this kind of stuff. But see, Religion is something that man makes, just like politics is something that man makes. But the laws of nature does not come by man's determination and will. Nature's God does not come by the determination and will of man. Religion does. Politics does. But they were not looking to religion or political party. They were not looking to legislation and human will and human law and human imposition. They were not looking to those things that can be so easily manipulated by man's perception. They were looking at a supreme being who established the laws of nature that were incontrovertible, indisputable, absolute, by which all mankind comes into existence. A live sperm, a live egg, united, begins the multiplication of human development. Human legislation and manipulation has nothing to do with that. Those are absolute laws. It doesn't matter what religion you come from. A sperm and an egg united produces life. It doesn't matter what race you come from, what political party you lay claim to. A human sperm and a human egg united produces life. You see, it's not governed. It doesn't matter if you sit on the Supreme Court or you're living on Skid Row. A human sperm and a human egg united produces life. It's a law of nature. Let me read one more by one of our founding fathers. Thomas Jefferson said, in questions of power, then let no more be heard of confidence in man. Why? Because he's limited. But bind him down from mischief by the chains of the Constitution, which are governed by the truths found in the laws of nature and nature's God. Till next time, once again, I encourage you, and I will continue to encourage you, be a true American.